At 2 a.m., Brandon Swanson was walking alone through the darkness, talking to his father on the phone. His car was stuck in a ditch and he believed he was walking toward the lights of a nearby town. Then, suddenly, Brandon swore. His father heard the words, "Oh, shit," and the call went dead. He tried calling back again and again, but Brandon never answered. By morning, his abandoned car had been found, but Brandon was nowhere nearby. The strangest part was that Brandon had been completely certain about where he was. He was wrong. Brandon's father drove through the darkness trying to find him while keeping the phone call alive. Brandon kept describing what he could see around him, including fields, fences, gravel roads, and distant lights. He believed those lights were near Lind, so he decided to walk toward them. But there was a problem. Brandon was not where he thought he was. Later, investigators learned that his phone had been connecting to towers near Taunton, roughly 25 miles from Lind. His parents had been searching in the wrong area while Brandon was walking somewhere else in the darkness. He remained on the phone for about 47 minutes, giving his father clues about his surroundings. Then he mentioned another fence. Moments later, everything changed. Brandon suddenly exclaimed, "Oh, shit!" The line went silent and repeated calls received no answer. By morning, Brandon was still missing. His car had been located roughly 20 miles from where he believed he was, leaving investigators with a disturbing possibility. He had been completely disoriented during those final minutes. Search teams spread across fields, roads, and the nearby Yellow Medicine River, looking for any sign of him. The river was especially concerning because it was high and fast at the time, but searches found nothing. Investigators could not determine whether Brandon had accidentally wandered into the river, become lost somewhere in the countryside, or encountered something no one had seen. His final phone call had ended without an explanation, and every hour that passed made the mystery deeper. Searchers eventually brought in tracking dogs, hoping they could determine which direction Brandon had walked. One dog picked up his scent and followed it for several miles across rural roads, past an abandoned farm, and toward the Yellow Medicine River. The trail seemed to match details Brandon had mentioned during his final phone call, including fences and water nearby. For a moment, investigators thought they might finally be close. A search team examined the river and surrounding land, but nothing was found. The trail eventually disappeared, leaving investigators with a terrifying possibility. Brandon may have fallen somewhere along the route, or he may have continued walking into the darkness. No one could prove what happened. Years of searches produced no body, no phone, and no definitive evidence of foul play. The case remained open, and the last 47 minutes of Brandon's life became the most important unanswered mystery. Investigators kept searching the fields, roads, farms, and waterways around the area where Brandon was believed to have walked. His abandoned car was eventually confirmed to be far from where he thought he was. His phone, however, was never recovered. That left investigators with one haunting possibility. The final call may have ended because Brandon suddenly fell, slipped, or encountered an unexpected obstacle, but there was no physical evidence proving what happened. The case remained open, and Brandon was never found. Turn search 12. The most important clue was still the same one heard by his father in the darkness. Oh shit! What did Brandon see, and why did everything go silent immediately afterward? Years passed, but Brandon was never found. Investigators considered several possibilities, including an accidental fall, drowning, becoming lost, or an encounter with another person. Yet none could be proven. His family continued searching for answers, while the final phone call remained the most important clue. Brandon had been alive and speaking to his father only moments before the connection ended. Then nothing. No confirmed sighting followed, and no physical evidence explained his disappearance. The countryside gave investigators almost no answers. The case remained open, but one question continued to haunt everyone involved. What happened in the final seconds of Brandon Swanson's phone call? More than a decade has passed since Brandon Swanson disappeared, but the final moments of his phone call remain unexplained. His car was found, his route was investigated, and extensive searches produced no confirmed answer. Brandon himself was never located. His family was left with the same haunting question. Did he become lost in the darkness, suffer an accident, or encounter someone along the road? We may never know. What makes the case unforgettable is how suddenly everything stopped. One moment, a young man was talking to his father. The next, there was only silence. And somewhere in that darkness, Brandon disappeared without a trace.